Good morning and welcome to January's BCP Cabinet meeting. Very pleased to be with everybody today, and welcome to those who are joining us online. First, we're going to go to Sarah Colwick, our Democratic Services Officer, to read the housekeeping for today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Please note that this meeting of the Cabinet is being recorded by the Council for live broadcast and will be published on the Council website for a minimum of 6 months. Please could everyone present follow these ground rules. Only speak when invited to by the Chairman. If accessing via Teams, always turn on your video function when invited to speak and state your name. Please use your microphones when speaking and mute or turn off your microphone when you're not talking. And if you're accessing via Teams and you'd like to speak on an item, please indicate by utilising the raise your hand feature in the bar at the top of the Teams window. For those in the room, if the fire alarm sounds, please exit the building by way of the nearest available signed fire exit route and make your way to the assembly point along Braidley Road, under the flyover or in the surface car park at the front of the building. Finally, please ensure background noise is kept to a minimum and mobile phones and other devices are turned off or switched to silent for the duration of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Okay, so when we go to agenda item 1, which is apologies, I've had a few apologies. We've got Mike White and Beverly Dunlop joining online. Thank you very much for that. And then we have apologies from Councillor Barron, Councillor Rampton, and I believe, and Councillor Dunlop is with the Police and Crime Commissioner on a formal engagement. So are there any other apologies? And sorry, Councillor Dove is on with the Police and Crime Commissioner as well. So thank you very much for that. Then we move on to item 2, which is declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest on this agenda? Not seeing any of those, so we move to agenda item 3, which is a confirmation of minutes. We've all had these circulated, so if anybody has any, so I'll formally propose, and I believe Councillor Broadhead, you're seconding. Thank you. And if anybody has any comments on them, please show, which I'm not seeing. Okay, thank you very much. So then, all those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That is unanimous. So we'll move to agenda item 4, which is public issues, which we have no questions, statements or petitions submitted from members of the public on this occasion. So that takes us straight to agenda item 5, recommendations from overview and scrutiny committees. They're effectively take these with the items, but there were none of the papers today have gone through a formal overview and scrutiny. So we move straight to agenda item 6, which is for me to introduce the council tax base effectively. So for this year. This is a report we obviously get annually. We need to make sure we have it in time for setting our budget, which we'll be doing through the February cycle. So effectively, not a lot to say about this. There's some good news, and I think it's actually worth just reflecting briefly in terms of the good news. Our tax base has increased. We actually had through COVID for the first time ever our tax base decrease. Historically, that is very unusual because we're used to growing. We had to then make some assumptions about how that would grow back effectively. So the fact that the tax base of BCP has increased from 142,000 to just under 145,000 is good endorsement of our the prudency of our estimation that we were able to grow back as well. And our collection rate, I believe, is has improved from 97% to 98.2% as well. So some good news in here, and probably only spending a little bit more time on it than usual because we have had an interesting last couple of years in terms of council tax collection. I believe Councillor Broadhead, you're seconded? Yeah. Thank you very much. Do we have any comments or questions on that report? Not seeing any. So all those in favour, please show. Thank you. That is unanimous. Great. So then, really exciting agenda item 7, a piece of work that's been ongoing for a number of years in many forms. We've got the item number 7, the Bournemouth Towns Fund update, which Councillor Broadhead, I believe you're introducing. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. You're absolutely right. This is exciting because this does feel like the culmination of almost decades of work of improvement in Boscombe. Boscombe is in many ways one of the most beautiful areas, particularly in some of the architecture that we have in the BCP region. As we all know, it's also had some challenges, particularly like many of the high streets that we have in this area. And whilst a number of pieces of work have been undertaken over many years to continue to improve Boscombe, and it's such a vibrant area with absolutely brilliant communities. The step change that we're now seeing, particularly through the government's intervention through the Towns Fund programme and some of the actions that are now in the delivery phase, as well as what we're approving today, I think just builds on all of that fantastic, often community-led work over the years, but now brings it into a whole new level. So this report does a number of things. First of all, it looks at some progress of the delivery phases in action for parts of the Boscombe Towns Fund, and also brings forward the business cases which we have to bring forward to government by the 31st of this month for four of the phases, and more detail within there, namely the Phase 1 Master Plan, the Royal Arcade, digital connectivity, and some of the local transport projects. And again, Chairman, within the recommendations, some of which are going to Cabinet, some of which have to make their way through to full council, are some of the mechanics behind the decisions that we have to make within those approvals. So as I mentioned, back in May 2021, we were really fortunate through what is called the Bournemouth Towns Fund investment plan, but actually is all focused around Boscombe, to receive just under £23 million from government, which is a huge chunk of money, and enables us to really make a difference in a way that we've never been able to before to some of the fabric of regeneration of Boscombe, as well as other projects as well. And in table 1 in the report, it highlights the projects that were approved as part of that deal. We are now in delivery phase on a number of those projects. So the Boscombe Skill and Engagement Hub is now firmly up and running, and for those that haven't checked it out, it's right in the centre of Boscombe, and is doing a really good job of not just showcasing some of this work, but also being the centre of the skills offering in the area as well. The work in Kings Park, we've got events programmes, we've got the old schoolhouse at Tosh building and work going on there, the Toff Steps Beach Box Park, work on the High Street, as well as some accelerated funding that we received for digital connectivity. Those are things that are already underway as part of this massive regeneration programme. What we're now doing is progressing to approvals for the next phases, and I'll just run through them very quickly. First of all, we've got the Phase 1 master planning, which is still being directly led by the in-house Towns Fund team. The major work on Phase 2, which I'll come to a little bit later, which is the kind of the big bang of the Sovereign Centre and the new town square, is now being led by our brilliant team in future places. So that comes a little bit later. Phase 1 is getting to action really very quickly, and in particular is focusing around the Hawkwood Road area. And what we're doing as part of that is bringing forward a scheme that actually keeps 146 of the public parking spaces, but brings forward a new medical and health facility, a new fantastic public pocket park, and 53 new homes on the main part of Hawkwood Road car park. What we're also doing is punching through from the main pedestrianised area of Christchurch Road in order to facilitate a really nice way through to this new area. And one of the things that I think I'm most excited about, as is the rest of the Towns Fund team, is the provision of a community centre as part of that scheme as well. Hasn't been without its challenges, Chairman. As we all know, we're living in an environment of rapid inflation, which has hit the viability of some of the schemes, which is why actually, and it details in the report some of the options that we've considered, rather than just eroding the whole scheme down to what we could do right now, we've instead decided to keep that ambition, particularly around the healthcare facility, the public park and the community centre, but do it in a more phased approach so that we can keep that ambition of Phase 1 and carry on the rest of the phasing of that. So as mentioned, we've got 53 new homes, we've got a healthcare facility, we've got a park, we've got a new community centre, and more, and the details of what we're agreeing are in this report. I think it's also worth saying the added benefit of the phased approach is we've been doing a tremendous amount of work on what the right level of public parking is for Boscombe, and there's people on both sides of the fence. On the one hand, a lot of studies which show that there is a tremendous amount, even at very peak times, of empty spaces there, which could give us the ability to have some land to do all these exciting regeneration things. On the other hand, what is success in Boscombe? Success in Boscombe is growing and bringing more people in. So there is the argument that we might need more parking spaces in the future as well. What we're doing with this phase one on the Hawkwood, a lot of that public parking there, as well as obviously the large multi-storey. So it enables us to box clever and see how that situation evolves into the future. It's got widespread community support, and I think is absolutely the right thing to be doing. Within this paper, we're also improving lots of the local transport projects, about 3.2 million of those, and they include network improvement on the A35 between Woodland Walk and the Boscombe Precinct, a new which will run from Folkestone Station to Boscombe Pier via Hawkwood Road, and that pilot will run between April and October this year. Some local walking improvements to improve the safety and improve walkability in the area, as well as some park improvements, particularly around Woodland Walk. And it's brilliant again to see those coming through at such pace to show that regeneration isn't just about pretty buildings. But moving on to pretty buildings, one of the other exciting parts that we're approving in this is the work around the Royal Arcade. For those that don't know the Royal Arcade in Boscombe, I think it's one of the most beautiful buildings in BCP region. It's got a tremendous history, it's got tremendous heritage, and it's got tremendous potential as well. And whilst particularly with the movement of our skills hub into there, we're now seeing new life. We've got firm plans which was central to being awarded this chunk of money from government about bringing it to a whole new future as a destination leisure offer with a food market hall, creative independent retail, showrooms, independent pop-ups, makers and creators and workshops, alongside a whole other host of other things that we can do in the upper floor. Paper is approving the business case around that going into the future. We're also working very closely with Heritage Fund, that's formerly the Heritage Lottery Fund, preparing a £4 million grant, which seems quite optimistic for that. So again, this paper approves a number of the principles behind that building, and actually it is pretty central to what we're trying to do. Chairman, there's a whole host of other updates within this paper, namely some of the fantastic work that the team at Future Places are doing, mainly consultation at this stage around that really exciting phase 2 work, and there is an update on there in there as well. But in summary, a number of things for Cabinet to approve today. And we've got, I think, 9 recommendations. I think what I would finish with is £23 million sounds like a lot of money, and it is a lot of money. We should be really proud of that achievement, but it's not all being wasted on some big fancy scheme. It is a number of phases, some of which are already in delivery, some of which we're approving today, and some of which to come, which I think really highlights that the future of Boscombe is not just bright, but it's coming sooner than we might think. Thank you, Chairman.
Fantastic, and I was right. It's absolutely exciting, and really pleased to see some of this stuff come forward, and in particular some of the community and cultural, pieces. It really gets to the heart of Boscombe, doesn't it? I'll now move to Councillor Kelly, who's going to second Jane.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'm absolutely delighted to support this paper, as the regeneration of Boscombe has been at the heart of my time as an elected member. We've worked on this from several perspectives over the years, but this is the first time that a significant sum of grant funding has been available to us. The preparatory work, including a huge amount of face-to-face and digitally based consultation, has been going on over the last few years, and I think that our current master plan represents the best value for money, coupled with a much enhanced area around the precinct. New homes will bring new families, who will in turn bring new vigour to the centre of Boscombe. The new community centre will be very much welcomed by local residents who have been asking for this for a long time. The fact that there is already a community set up They are busy planning how it will be run and how it can be both effective to the needs locally and sustainable is testament to the engagement with this proposed plan. We've already seen the installation of free Wi-Fi along the precinct and the infrastructure installed for that to be extended down to the seafront, along with a 5G facility for businesses to use, as well as some other digitally enabled benefits which will become apparent as the work progresses. Soon there'll be improvement to some shop fronts, which will again enhance the area visually. And the new minibus service linking Folkestone Station to the shops and the pier will be very much welcomed. The hub at the entrance to the Royal Arcade that Councillor Broadhead mentioned has been well used already by many residents to peruse the plans and discuss details of the proposals. There are also skills and learning sessions taking place within the hub already, and these will be augmented later on. The refurbishment and the bringing to life of the Royal Arcade, a truly iconic building, is another long-held wish of residents and visitors to Boscombe. To see the building bustling and busy once again will be absolutely fantastic, and I'm so pleased to be part of the management board to share in the excitement as we progress through the processes of this happening. I want to thank everyone who's played a part in getting us to this point. Members of the management board, Councillor Broadhead spearing up, heading it up, and the subgroups who have attended many meetings, perhaps Arthur Cavell, the programme manager, the complicated spreadsheets that she has created and updated, the suppliers she has worked with, the knots that she has untied are many and various. Thanks for sticking with it, Martha. We're beginning to see some light at the end of the tunnel now, although I'm pretty sure there'll be some further wiggles ahead to negotiate. So in conclusion, content of this report, and I'm very pleased to formally second.
Fantastic, thank you. And yeah, a long piece of work, which you deserve an awful amount of credit for. So thank you. Okay, so now we go to the wider members of council for comment, and I have Councillor Paul Hilliard to come in first. Paul.
Thank you, Leader. So basic points are that obviously because of timing of Christmas and whatever, this I understand hasn't been to either place or corporate community scrutiny, so hence why there was no scrutiny update. So to save a lot of debate at council with basic questions, is it possible, because I think it should have happened earlier with such a big project, that there should have been probably a full members briefing? It probably would be worth having a briefing between now and the next council meeting just to cover questions and delve deeper in preparation. The other question was, there's obviously been a lot of public interest in the Kings Park Indoor Bowls Club, and I know there's been a few questions to full council and scrutiny, and I can't remember what the outcome was. I thought it was still being investigated, but there's no mention of bowls in the report. And then moving on to the Royal Arcade, yes, it is positive for Boscombe, and I think all councillors probably said, yeah, the money is needed, but you obviously see there has been a lot of comment about the Royal Arcade, one, the ownership, and should BCP Council be paying for refurbishment if we don't actually own it, and then similarly, yeah, how much can you do? So it's just really that type of decision. Is it the money best spent on the Royal Arcade? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Councillor Broadhead, would you like to take any comments from councillors first and at the end, or do at the end? Okay, thanks, Paul. Yeah, good points and comments. We'll now move to wider cabinet as well, and we have Councillor Brooks. Nigel, morning.
Yes, thank you, Leader. As the member in cabinet, lead member for Retail Renaissance and Retail Strategy, I fully endorse this paper, and in particular the section with regard to the Royal Arcade. I have shared with members my professional background as a chartered surveyor working on historic buildings, grade 1, grade 2, and in particular arcades such as the Royal Arcade. My experience tells me that the investment to actually bring back what is a jewel of Boscombe is going to be vitally important. It says in the report, and I would say to Councillor Hillard, there is a massive information in there which actually goes very deep into the whole financials and business cases for the whole project. And I would ask members to really acquaint themselves with all the detail. But I can actually fully endorse this paper, as I say, because it's a tremendous opportunity to bring back into really positive use the arcade, and the report says there's potential for creating 183 jobs. As Councillor Broadhead has set out, it's a very, very wide opportunity in terms of rejuvenating the tenant mix and introducing a destination for people who look for the kind of opportunity to shop and to have a leisure experience. And I think that's vitally important. This is the catalyst to actually start to turn the corner in terms of how people view this part of Boscombe. And I fully endorse the paper. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you so much. And it just shows another one of the reasons why we're doing this. Okay, fine. I'm not seeing any more questions from Cabinet. Perhaps I'll come back to Councillor Broadhead to sum up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And again, thank you to Councillor Kelly for additional information and all the thank yous, which I actually neglected to do as well. So I'm really pleased she did that. And in particular, and I will re-highlight because I do think it's really important, the fact that, and this is baked into the government's Towns Fund programme. I think it's one aspect that works really well, but the community-led approach of this, obviously the council are intently involved in this, both ward councillors, Councillor Kelly and I as the vice chair of the Towns Fund board. But this is a community led project. The Towns Fund board is the one that makes the decisions, and there's only a couple of councillors on that board. So whilst clearly through the recommendations that we're bringing forward today, the council is a key partner, particularly around funding and our ability to borrow to get some of these schemes off the ground, I think we can't understate the importance of the community in this project. And we've got some real community champions on that board who are sometimes as prickly as the rest of us, but with good reason, because it's important that we get these things right, and that testing and challenging within that board is healthy, very welcomed, and I think bringing forward some of the best results. I will deal with some of the points that have come up. Councillor Hilliard brings up the point of making sure that all the members are involved. Well, as I've said, all the ward members have been intimately involved in this project throughout the course of its journey in various forms, including representation on the board, briefings, etc., etc. So all of those ward members that represent the electorate where this is taking part, I think maybe even know more about the scheme than I do. So I'm pretty confident on their involvement. However, that obviously we are making decisions here that are council-wide as well, and I do accept that there is other interest in there as well. Instead of a full member briefing, which sometimes we do these particularly for certain areas of BCP and they're not particularly well attended. What I might well do is take away Councillor Hilliard's really positive suggestion, maybe do a drop-in session, work with the team, with Martha and perhaps with some of our lead officers, and put an hour in the diary where anybody that's interested can come in and chat it through. That's probably more interactive and we'll get to the root of some of the questions that some members might have, rather than me or officers talking at them for an hour or two. So I will take that away in the spirit that it's intended, and that's always something that we're open to as well. So if any other members are interested in any of the either regen or other things that we're interested in, give me a call, send me an email. More than happy to devote my time to walking through any members on it, but also to set up anything that members may wish to have in a more formal forum as well. Councillor Hilliard also questions at the Bowls Club. The Bowls Club was one of the acquisitions that we were able to make through the capital funds that came through from government on this. We didn't own the building outright previously. That enabled us to own the building, particularly because at the time we weren't even bowls was kind of going along quite nicely. There was a lot of extra space in the building which we've used for our adult learning offering, which is actually going really well. The future of bowls there is an entirely separate discussion. We now happen to own the building, but actually it's not related to our acquisition, hence the reason it's not on here. And as we've well rehearsed, the decision's been taken through the summer period where that indoor bowls club is not particularly well used, to pause the indoor bowling there, because again it shouldn't hopefully affect the bowling that much, to try and see whether there are any solutions for the indoor bowls offering or the wider indoor bowls offering to be resolved in the context of that reduced membership and the increase in costs. We've got a really engaged community with the bowls there. We're in consultation with them, and I'm confident that if we all move forward in the spirit of optimism, that we can find resolutions on that we're all happy with. And finally, Councillor Hilliard raises the point of Royal Arcade. Is it the best use? Is it worth it? Is it the best thing to be focusing on in this scheme? I think Councillor Brooks mentioned probably better than I can some of the reasons why it absolutely is. I think it's also worth saying that, pretty central to our pitch to government for this 23 million was this. So when you apply for these government funds, you've got to say what you want to do with it. And whilst, particularly in this inflationary environment, you can maybe move slightly on some of the and evolve some of the thinking as time moves on. This was pretty critical, and as Councillor Kelly said, is a building which has so much potential, and I'm still really excited about some of the plans that we've got for there. He's absolutely right. There's sometimes complicated ownership with all of these. A number of work streams are going on to make sure that our risk against this is fairly mitigated. But actually, one only needs to look, as Councillor Nigel Brooks kind of hinted at some of the other areas where this type of thing has taken place. Even on our own doorstep, the work that L&G have done on in Kingland Crescent in Poole, revitalising that independent retail offer there. And you only need to look at the footfall figures from November and December, alongside some of the things that clearly we've been doing with our events programme, to know that that's working really, really well and bringing life into what was really an unloved part of Poole. We can absolutely do that and more here, and that's why it was always central to our plans. So really pleased to bring forward these recommendations to Cabinet. As I mentioned, there are 9 recommendations there, which detail all of the decisions that we've got to make, and I commend it to my colleagues.
Absolutely fantastic, thank you. And a really, really detailed piece of work, huge amount of work, and we can see that in the report and recommendations. Okay, fantastic. So let's see, moving to the vote now then. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. Again, that's unanimous, appreciated. Okay, so now we'll move on to agenda item, I believe it's agenda item 8, Family Hubs Transformation Fund 1. So technically I will be proposing this item, but we're going to come straight to Mike White, who will be joining us online to introduce the paper. Mike. Mike, we can't hear you in the room. I'm wondering if you're on mute.
Well spotted, Leader. Thank you. Is that better? Can you hear me now?
We can, yes, thank you.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. This is a good news successful bid for government funds. Cabinet's being asked to approve acceptance of 883k grant funding, which will enable us to transform our existing children's centres. Now, this transformation, it's all about extending the reach of our existing children's centres, which at the moment cover the age range 0 to 5. And the intent is to provide support for young people through the whole of their young people experience, and cover the age range 0 to 18, or in the case of SEND, 0 up to 25. The intention is to provide multi-agency joined up support for the whole family, therefore, throughout the whole of a child's development. So it's clearly a very ambitious programme. There's a lot more detail about this in the appendices, which I commend to you. Cabinet being asked to accept the funding and to delegate authority to spend this to the Director of Children's Services in consultation with myself as lead member and the Director of Public Health, who are very closely involved with us, of course, in our children's centres activity. I propose that a further report be brought to Cabinet in due course on the progress of this transformation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's really helpful. So I believe technically Councillor Green is seconding, and then I'll come back. Do we have any comments from overview and scrutiny? I believe we do have Councillor Burton online. Richard, good morning.
Good morning, Leader, and thank you for letting me speak. Firstly, I'd also like to say well done for securing this funding. It does look very exciting. We've repeatedly heard at Children's Awareness how important early intervention support is, and extending it across the age group looks to me great. And it hopefully will provide better outcomes as well as reducing future costs. I believe that, and please correct me if I'm wrong on this, Mike, 6 family hubs and 3 outreach centres at the moment. I'm very interested to know how this money is going to be spent and how it's going to be spread around, especially how it affects the outcome of our young people. And I'm sure I'm speaking for the members of my scrutiny team as well. I know it's not an appropriate time to have a lot more detail now, and you've said that it's going to hopefully come back to Cabinet again in the future. I would welcome some chance to look at some scrutiny with us, not scrutinising the actual reasons for having it, because that sounds like a win-win to me, but the outcomes, and just purely for our interest, I think. So yeah, I'm very much in support of this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, do we have any other comments from? No, not seeing that. So perhaps I'll go now to Councillor Nicola Green. Good morning.
Thank you, Lisa. Morning, colleagues. Unsurprisingly, I fully endorse the comments made by Councillor White, and I welcome this as much as Councillor Burton does, and also I'm looking forward to hearing about its impact, because that's what we should be asking always when we do things for children. I think what this really reflects is the next stage in the journey, from the really very valuable work that has gone on in children's centres. But actually, for me, this reads like what it should look like post-COVID, and I do think it reflects the nature of our society a bit more. For me, the important points are the multi-agency nature of the hubs, the integration and the data sharing. I think it's really important to note that this was developed by the Department for Education, it from the Department for Levelling Up, as well as the Department for Health and Social Services. So I think that's Department for Health and Social Care, and I think that shows where we're aiming this work, that it is fully integrated rather than just sitting in the world of children's. Really significantly, I think, is the focus on virtual access. You know, we've done quite well, haven't we, with providing some very good online access for our families, but I think this will push us to the next stage. People have taken, again, a step change over COVID in how they need to access their information and their services, and I really welcome the focus of this work in that area. The extended age range, especially for children and families with special educational needs and disabilities, I think is so important. We know how difficult transitions are between services, particularly for those families, and I think to have a 0 to 25 offer in one place with everybody speaking the same language through a common assessment is going to be really, really welcome. And most significantly, this puts our families in control of the services that they need. So fully behind it, and really look forward to the next stages. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely well said, and I absolutely endorse that. Are there any other comments from Cabinet colleagues? Which I'm not seeing. So perhaps Councillor White, I'll come back to you to sum up. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Councillor Burton for. I really will welcome input from scrutiny as we progress through this transformation. Thank you, and I commend this report to Cabinet.
Thank you very much. Okay, then. So now to a vote. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so back to Councillor Mike White. Now we've got the Pan Dorset agenda item 9 and the Pan Dorset Safeguarding Children Partnership. So again, I'm formally proposing, and Nicola Green, I believe, is seconding yes. And we come to Councillor White to introduce. Thank you.
Thank you again, Leader. Yes, this annual report, it's a statutory responsibility placed on the Pan Dorset Safeguarding Children's Partnership, which is itself a statutory body. And it's a multi-agency body which covers local Dorset as well as the BCP Council area. The report's really for Cabinet to note and to comment. It has been scrutinised by Children's ONS back in late November. They did have a number of quite detailed questions and comments, but I think it's fair to say that I don't think they had any particular concerns with the report, and indeed I believe they actually welcomed the report. Just to give you a flavour of the sort of challenges which the partnership are trying to address, they include things like child exploitation, sexual abuse, domestic abuse, and mental health. I don't propose to go into it in any further detail, but I commend this report to Cabinet colleagues and happy to take questions.
Thank you very much, Councillor White. Okay, so again, this report, I believe this report was taken to overview and scrutiny. It's the Children's Overview and Scrutiny. So again, I'll come back to Councillor Burton to discuss it. Hello, Richard.
Thank you, Jay. Yes, yeah, it did go to Children's Open Scrutiny back on the 22nd of November, and Councillor White is quite true what he said. We had a good discussion, a very interesting discussion about it, and we did very much support it. I'm not going to go through all we discussed about because I know at least two of you were there, and it's all in the minutes. Just to highlight a couple of things. We did talk about scrutiny of this, further scrutiny, because there is an external scrutineer looking at this, and they're going to feed back to Children's ONS in the future. We talked about the pros and cons of working Pan Dorset rather than just within BCP, and we were reassured that there were more pros than cons, but we talked about Ofsted mentioning it, and we feel that it needs monitoring, and the young people from the Young People's Parliament also had a lot of interest in this, that they want to know more, and the independent chair has agreed to go to their forum. And this also feeds in very nicely to, we've got a working group at the moment looking at child exploitation, and so some of what we did on this really fed into our next working group. So again, yes, we did very much support this, and it was a very interesting report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay, great. Let me see if any other members of Council indicated to speak. No, not seeing that. So perhaps I could come to Councillor Nicola Green. Thank you.
Thank you to the comments already made, but happy formally to second this.
Thank you very much. Okay, any other comments from Cabinet? Not seeing those, so we'll take that to the vote again. All those in favour, please show. That's great. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Councillor White, for those two papers. Okay, so pretty much through the business of the meeting now. Agenda item 10, which is urgent decisions taken by the Chief Executive, which I believe I've done. None. Thank you very much. That's great. Then we move to agenda item 11, board plan, and that has been updated and is online. So if anybody has any questions or comments on that, I'm very happy to take them, which I'm not seeing. So I believe then it's just for me to thank everybody for attending today, and particularly those who have attended online and viewing on YouTube, and then to close the meeting. Thank you.